BBC News with Sue Montgomery. President Zelensky has declared Wednesday a day of Ukrainian unity after US intelligence suggested Russia could attack on that day. In an address to the nation, he said Ukraine wanted peace, but also had a strong army. The United States has insisted there is still space for diplomacy. From Washington, here's Barbara Plett-Usher.
Despite constant U.S. warnings of potential military action, the State Department said the Americans did not believe President Putin had made a decision yet about whether to invade Ukraine. And that's what we tell our partners, said the spokesman Ned Price. He was responding to suggestions that the U.S. had in fact told Ukraine there would be an invasion on Wednesday. Ukraine's president mentioned he'd received such a message, but didn't say from whom. Russia's foreign minister had sent a message about diplomacy, telling Mr. Putin that talks with the West should continue and expand. Mr. Price noted this comment, but was skeptical. What we haven't noted is any sign of de-escalation, he said.
Canada's Prime Minister has invoked rarely used emergency powers in an attempt to end protests against COVID measures. Speaking at a news conference, Justin Trudeau said the blockades were harming the economy and endangering public safety. He added that invoking the Emergencies Act was a last resort and measures would be reasonable.
The police will be given more tools to restore order in places where public assemblies can constitute illegal and dangerous activities, such as blockades and occupations as seen in Ottawa, the Ambassador Bridge, and elsewhere. These tools include strengthening their ability to impose fines or imprisonment.
A federal hate crimes trial has begun in the US for the 3 white men convicted of killing a black jogger, Ahmaud Arbery, in February 2020. He was chased and then shot as he jogged through a neighborhood in southern Georgia. The jury will decide whether racial bias was a factor in his killing. A study of the rivers around the world has found potentially toxic levels of pharmaceutical drugs in a quarter of them. Researchers from the British University of York took samples from more than 250 rivers across every continent. Jonah Fisher reports.
When medicine has finished making its way through your body, it doesn't just disappear. Some key ingredients may remain active as they pass down your toilet, through the water treatment system, and then out into rivers and lakes. This latest research makes depressing reading. Drugs that are used to treat epilepsy and diabetes were the most widely found. The worst sites tested were in Pakistan, Bolivia and Ethiopia, with those in Iceland, Norway and the Amazon rainforest amongst the most pristine.
World News from the BBC. The Taliban in Afghanistan have warned that they will be forced to reconsider their policy towards the United States if Washington doesn't reverse its decision to release only part of Afghan funds. Last week, President Biden signed an order reserving half of the $7 billion of Afghan central bank assets and U.S. territory as compensation for the victims of the 9/11 attacks. The US says it will set aside the remaining $3.5 billion for humanitarian help in Afghanistan. New cybersecurity measures have come into effect in China. Chinese technology companies seeking to list their stocks overseas will have to undergo a security review. Our Asia business correspondent Mariko Oi reports.
Think of a Chinese company with an online presence of 1 million users or more. There's a lot. And if any of them wants to go public overseas, they'll now have to go through a security review. It's part of China's clampdown on the country's tech sector. The authorities are particularly concerned about companies which hold vast amounts of data. They worry that the information could get into the hands of a foreign government, creating national security concerns.
Police in Tokyo have created a video for big screen billboards featuring the faces of 7 aging militants wanted for their alleged role in attacks in the 1970s and 80s. Officials also stepped up their search for the Japanese Red Army members by putting up posters in railway stations and other locations. The case is not over yet, the video warns, adding Japanese Red Army members are still in the run and they may live somewhere near you. Israel has clinched a $500 million deal to supply Morocco with an air defence system. The contract with Israeli Aerospace follows the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding on Defence Collaboration. BBC News.